Dead men tell no tales. Do you know there was a period of David's life before he became king of Israel that he was basically a pirate? He was a bandit wandering around the lands for the Philistine king because he was in such discouragement and such despair that he ran away from Israel. David ran away from the protection of God, and obviously he's still being protected by God, but he ran away from the people, away from Saul, and just gave up. For about a year and a half, David was wandering around in Ziklag, in the Philistine territory, going out and raiding other territories that weren't Philistines but weren't Israelites. You go out there, take out the Amalekites here and other people groups here that God had told Joshua to wipe out before in the land of Canaan anyway. He told them to do that. But now David is actually committing sin. He's doing something that God did not tell him to do, wiping out everyone in these villages so that, again, there was no one left to tell the tales of what David did, except for David himself and his people. He took 600 of his men into the Philistine territory, into Ziklag and all that area, so basically putting all these people in harm's way in idolatry, an idolatrous situation where the Philistines, of course, that. And it's not like these people that he was wiping out were good. They were not following God. They were worshiping idols and all these things. They weren't turning to the Lord. But nothing that David did at this point was a good thing. And it's interesting, I was reading about David in this chapter, 1 Samuel 27. It's a very dark period of time for David, obviously, but Spurgeon was referring to this passage, and he was talking about how in his own life of discouragement, he had a friend that would come and read to him passages of faith and of endurance. And then at the end, he would remind Spurgeon that you wrote this. This is one of your sermons. Charles Spurgeon is one of the greatest, preachers of all time. And it's something important. It's like why I always remind you to write a journal, because you never know when God is going to bring up things that he did in your life before. And he does that with me all the time. Because personally, I've been through my own periods of despair. There's no Psalms that were written that we know of during these days when he was in the Philistine territory, when David was embracing that discouragement. I mean, God was using that to pull David back to him. He was using that. It's not like God ever abandoned David. David had abandoned God. He'd made his choice. He turned away, backslidden for a period of time. It's something we don't think about with King David, the mighty David, but he did. We all are capable of doing that. We all need to remember that God is there. That's why the Bible is here. So that and it's true, it's honest. Why would you put that in there if it wasn't true? This is the Bible we're talking about. That's another, authentication of it. That he's going to admit that David did all these things. And of course, later we're going to find out he did some worse things too, but when we get into 2 Samuel later. But continue to study. Be encouraged. God is going to use the things he's done in your past to encourage you in your present situation. That's how he does it. And if you need help, find a friend, find a person in the faith that can uplift you and strengthen you. Encourage the brethren, encourage your family in Christ. God bless. Thank you for listening. And please share this video out. We want to spread the message of God as much as we can. We want to make Bible study, something that's real and impactful in everybody's lives. So thank you for listening.